Dear students, welcome to this course of engineering mechanics. And first, we will discuss statics. So let us have an introduction to statics. So these are the contents of the introduction. First, we will see what is mechanics. Then we will study different fundamental concepts and then the different fundamental principles. Then we will see about different type of system of units that you will see in your mechanical engineering problems. Then we will see how to solve the different problems, and then about the accuracy, numerical accuracy of the solution. So let us start. First, let us see what is mechanics. So as you can see, mechanics is the science which describes and predicts the conditions of rest or motion of bodies under the action of forces. So if you are having some bodies that are under the application of different forces, then by using mechanics you can predict the conditions of rest or motion of the bodies by applying the laws of mechanics. Now you can classify the mechanics or different type of bodies as rigid bodies mechanics. So in rigid bodies we can have statics and dynamics. So whenever you are studying the bodies which are rigid, then you have to study statics. When your bodies are in rest, then you have to study statics. And if your bodies are moving under the action of forces, then you can call it dynamics. Then you can have deformable bodies. So some bodies deform under the action of forces. So then you have to use different laws. Our syllabus is limited to only this part, statics and dynamics. And there are then you have the fluids. So for studying fluid, you will have different subjects like fluid mechanics, fluid dynamics. So in mechanics, we are studying rigid bodies only, and rigid bodies can have two types of mechanics: statics when your bodies are in rest, and dynamics when your bodies are moving under the action of forces. Now mechanics is an applied science. It is not an abstract or pure science, but does not have the empiricism found in other engineering sciences. So mechanics is the applied science, means it is based on certain laws of physics, laws of motion. Okay. And mechanics is the foundation of most engineering sciences, especially in designing of machines, designing of equipments, designing of structures. Mechanics is used. So mechanics is the foundation of most engineering sciences and is an indispensable prerequisite to their study. So if you want to study different type of engineering courses, and then you have to study mechanics, because you will be applying the principles of mechanics everywhere. Whenever you are designing certain machines, certain structure, certain equipments, for that you need the principles of mechanics. You need to calculate the forces. You need to predict the conditions of rest, conditions of motion. Now we will see about different fundamental concepts that you will encounter in your mechanics course. So one such concept is the space. So what is the space? Associated with the notion of the position of a point P, given in terms of three coordinates measured from a reference point or origin. So whenever you are solving some mechanics problems, then all the bodies, they must be present somewhere, and that somewhere is the space. And you can represent the bodies by the coordinates. So there is some reference system. Suppose you may have your x, y, z, and the reference system has origin, and your bodies, they may be represented by a position coordinate P, and this is the space. Okay, then another very important fundamental concept is time. So from the time, definition of an event requires specification of the time and position at which it is occurred. So if you are studying a rigid body that is moving, then you need to know that at a particular time, whether it is moving, whether it is fixed, whether it is in the state of rest or in the state of motion, and after the period of certain time, what is the position of the body. So you need to specify those things. Okay, suppose initially your body is at rest, it is having velocity v is equals to 0 at time t is equals to t1, and after a certain time, say t is equals to t2, it is possible that your rigid body or the system of a rigid body, it is moving with a certain velocity, say 2 meter per second. Then you also need to specify some direction also. Then another important fundamental concept is the mass. So mass is used to characterize and compare bodies. So certain bodies are lighter in weight, they are having less mass, and because of less mass, the Earth's gravitational attraction force is also less, and also if you are sliding your body, then it is having a less frictional force. If the mass of the body is higher, then it is attracted by a larger force towards the earth, and also the resistance force will also be higher. And another important fundamental concept is the force. So force represents the action of one body on another. So how one body is having action on another body, and a force is characterized by point of application, magnitude, and direction. So whenever you are talking about a force, you need to specify these three things: at which point your force is applied, what is the magnitude of that force, and what is the direction of that force. Only then you can know the effect of that force. So if there is some body, suppose this is your body, and suppose you are applying a force, then you are having a point of application, then you have the magnitude. So sometime magnitude is represented by the length of the arrow, and by this you can represent the direction of the force. So in Newtonian mechanics, space, time, and mass are absolute concepts independent of each other. So the space, time, and mass, they do not depend on each other, they are independent to each other. While force is not independent of other three. So force depend on space as well as time as well as on mass. So the force acting on a body is related to the mass of the body and the variation of its velocity with time. Now there are certain fundamental principles which you might have studied in your physics course. So one such fundamental principle is the parallelogram law. So if there are two vectors P and Q and they are represented by two arrows, so this is the direction and the length of the arrow will represent the magnitude. So suppose if you represent the two vectors by the arms to two sides of the parallelogram and you complete the parallelogram, then this diagonal of the parallelogram will represent the resultant of these two vectors. So if P and Q are the forces, then this R is the resultant of P and Q. So if you are representing P and Q separately, or if you want to represent them in a combined form, then you can represent by them by R. Then another principle is the principle of transmissibility. So suppose, as you can see, this is your rigid body and you are applying a force at this point. Suppose you are pulling this body in this direction, and if you draw a line passing through this force, this is the line. What principle of transmissibility says? It says that along this line, the line of application of the force, if you change the point of application, so here the point of application is this. Now suppose you have changed the application to this point, but all other things, means the magnitude of the force, direction of the force, it is same, then this will have the same effect on the body. So the effect produced by this force F and this force F dash will be the same. So this is called as the principle of transmissibility. Then other fundamental principles are the Newton's laws of motion. So these laws you also studied in your physics course. So Newton's first law, what it says? It says that if the resultant force on a particle is zero, the particle will remain at rest or continue to move in a straight line. Okay, so suppose this is the body. Okay, suppose one force is applied here, one force is applied here, and one force. So we are having three forces on this body. This is your body. Now if the resultant of these three forces is 0, and suppose your initially the body is at rest, and if you apply three forces and the resultant of all these three forces are 0, then according to first law, this body will remain in rest because no net force is applied. We applied three forces, but the resultant of the three forces is 0. And similarly, if the body is moving with a constant velocity and then we have applied all these three forces, and it will continue to move with the same velocity. So this is the first law. And then next, Newton's second law. A particle will have an acceleration proportional to a non-zero resultant applied force. So now if the resultant force, they are not 0 but they are having certain magnitude f, okay, then the acceleration of the particle because of this unbalanced force will be directly proportional to the acceleration. And if you write in the form of equality, then you can write as F is equals to m into a. So a particle will have an acceleration proportional to a non-zero resultant applied force. So F is directly proportional to the acceleration. And third is the Newton's third law. So it says there the forces of action and reaction between the two particles have the same magnitude and line of action with opposite sense. So suppose if you are having, say, a wall and you have applied some force F. So this force you have applied on the wall. Suppose you are punching the wall, okay? Then you also feel some pressure on your hand. So what is this? That force is applied by the wall on your hand, and it will have the same magnitude, but the direction of that force will be opposite. Magnitude will be the same and line of action will be the same. So this is the Newton's third law. So these are the fundamental principles. Then another one is the Newton's law of gravitation. I just forgot. So what it says, two particles are attracted with equal and opposite forces. So because of the gravitational force, two particles, suppose one particle is having a mass capital M, another particle is having a mass small m, and they are attracted towards each other by this force F, which is equals to Fg mm upon r square, where r is the distance between the particles and g is the gravitational constant. Now we will see the different system of units that you will be using in your mechanics course. So you will be having units for length, time, mass and force. Okay. Three of the kinetic units referred to basic units may be defined arbitrarily. That is, you can define the unit of length, then you can define the unit for time. So for, say, length for meter, for time you can define second, for mass you can have kg. Okay. The fourth unit which is also called as a derived unit must have a definition compatible with the Newton's second law. So the unit for force you will find by using second law. Okay. So According to the SI units or International System of Units, the unit of length is meter, the unit of time is second, the unit of mass is kilogram. Then force, which is the derived quantity, the unit of force will be this kg meter per second square, and 1 kg meter per second square is also defined as the Newton. So 1 Newton will be 1 kg meter per second square. Then you can have some other units also. So in different countries, sometimes different units are used. For example, in the US, sometimes they use feet for this length. For time, they use second, and for force, they use pound. So in US, they are treating this force as the basic quantity. Then mass is the derived unit in that case, and the unit of mass is slug, which is equals to 1 pound divided by 1 foot per second. Now we will see the method of problem solution, how you are going to solve your problems. So first thing is the problem statement, means you should know about your problem clearly. Okay, what is the dimensions, direction of forces, if the forces are applied, figure showing all the quantities. Okay, then specification of what is to be determined. So all these things should be known clearly. Every data, even if a single data is missing, then it might create problems and you will not be able to solve your problem correctly. So first thing is the problem statement. Then second most important thing in mechanics is to make the free body diagrams. So generally, whenever you are solving the problem in mechanics, it involves different bodies. So in free body diagram, what you have to do, you have to create separate diagrams for each of the bodies involved. So if you are having two bodies, then you have to make two free body diagrams. If you are having three bodies, then you have to make three free body diagrams with a clear indication of all forces acting on each body. Okay, so you have to make the free body diagram for every body, and you have to indicate all the forces. That also includes the interaction forces between two bodies. Okay, and after you make the free body diagrams, next step is to apply the fundamental principles, which we have just discussed in the previous slides. So these 6 fundamental principles are applied to express the conditions of rest or motion of each body. Then you will apply the rules of algebra to solve the equations for the unknown quantities. So some quantities are known to you, while some quantities are unknown. So by applying the fundamental principles and rules of algebra, you will be obtaining unknown quantities. And the last step is to check your solution. So in this, what you can do, you can test for the errors in reasoning by verifying the units of the computed results. Then you can test for errors in computation by substituting given data and computed results into previously unused equations. And then the last step is you can always apply your experience and physical intuition to access whether result seems reasonable. Okay, suppose you are having three bodies and one body you are having say 4 Newton force, another body you are having say 5 Newton force, and for third body you are obtaining say 100 Newton force. So that may looks unreasonable. Okay, so you can use your physical intuition and experience that whether the result seems correct or not. Now next is the numerical accuracy. The accuracy of a solution depends on 2 points. First one is the accuracy of the given data. Okay, so if the data which is given to you, that data is not accurate, that's all, your solution will also be not that much accurate. Okay, so you need to make sure that the whatever data you are having, that data should be accurate. And second is the accuracy of the computations performed. So whatever computations you are doing, you are using some calculators or some software, so you should make sure that computations are performed with accuracy. The solution cannot be more accurate than the less accurate of these two. Okay, so suppose you are having this data up to say 2 decimal and 1 decimal place, but the accuracy of your computation is up to 2 decimal place, then your solution should be accurate to up to 1 decimal place only, because your first data is only up to first decimal place accurate. Okay, so the use of hand calculators and computers generally make accuracy of the computations much greater than the accuracy of the data, and the solution accuracy is usually limited by the data accuracy. So this, for the second part, you are using calculators, computers, Excel sheets, so on. So this is generally very accurate. So generally the accuracy of your solution is limited by the given data. So as a general rule for engineering problems, the data are seldom known with an accuracy greater than 0.2%. So generally up to this 0.2% you know the data accurately. Therefore, it is usually appropriate to record parameters beginning with 1 with 4 digits and with 3 digits in all other cases. So suppose if it is not beginning with 1, so it is beginning with 4, then you should record in 3 digits. Okay, and if beginning with 1, then you should record 4 digits. Okay, so thanks everyone. This is all for this video. Thanks for watching.